It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Thursday? We do. From the DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, we welcome you to our Thursday podcast, Hacksaw's Headlines. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton, along with my co-host, John Riley, as we head towards a great sports weekend. This podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego. At halftime, we'll tell you about why it is so important if you got projects that you talk to them. And by North County Eye Center, Poway and Escondido. A reminder, we all need help with our eyes today, a year from today, whenever. Right now, North County Eye Center is offering free eye exams. Call North County Eye Center. Tell them Hacksaw sent you, and thanks for being part of our podcast. John Riley, good afternoon. We're going a lot of different directions. I just got a sense we're going to be arguing back and forth. How you doing?
I'm doing great. The Padres swept the Oakland A's. I know we're going to talk about that, but this Hacksaw's headline list is just loaded, and we got a lot to do.
Full disclosure, before we roll in here, do not adjust your computer screen. Do not adjust your cell phone. There's nothing wrong with your vision. It's my shirt. I understand it's glaring and jumping out at you. Item 2. Those of you who do a lot on social media, X marks the spot.
There you go.
X, a.k.a. Twitter. Hacksaw has his own Twitter account. I want you to jump on board, become a follower. At Hacksaw1090. At Hacksaw1090. Hey, dummy, what's the address?
It's,
at Hacksaw1090.
It says right there on the bottom right of the screen.
Okay. Looking for additional followers. And, of course, John and I kick this thing into gear, and we got a lot of unique things we're brainstorming. We're talking about Hacksaw's Insiders Group. Just briefly, how do they register to join our team?
Yeah, so if you want to get in Hacksaw's Insiders Group, go to leehacksawhamilton.com. In the upper right corner, there's an orange box. Put your email in there. We're sending out, Hacksaw's Best 15 just about every weekday. And then the One Man's Opinion column on occasion, those will be rolling out. Plus, we got some plans here for the remainder of the year.
And if you've never sampled my website, it's all written. I write on it every day. What the hell's wrong with you? Sample my website every morning. Today, a farewell piece to the legendary Jerry West was my One Man's Opinion column. So those are your marching orders. At Hacksaw1090, Insiders Group, sample the bleeping website. And when we're done talking to you about the hot topics on the table, John Riley's segment that he created, it's all his fault. It's called Fans Forum. And how does it work?
Yeah, so Fans Forum is your chance to contact Hacksaw, ask Hacksaw a question, or make a comment in the world of sports. So drop your take in the live chat on Facebook, X, or on YouTube, and we'll get you involved in Fans Forum. Topics
on the table. Here we go. We're going a lot of different directions. Well, I guarantee you a lot of different opinions on a Thursday, John.
Yeah, so the Padres swept the A's. I mean, what do you think of this, Lee?
Oh, please. I can't believe Padres social media. I can't believe my co-host with his opinions from left field. John, yes, it's great for the fans. 2 walk-off wins in a row. It's great. Padres have won 3 in a row. But it was the Oakland AAA Athletics. 29th in every offensive category in baseball, with the exception of strikeouts, where they're number 1 in the world. It was the Oakland A's. And the Padres could have lost the last 2 games of this homestand against the Oakland A's. 2 walk-off wins, it's great. But I'll tell you, Oakland, team batting average 220. 29th, I think I counted 9 different categories offensively. 29th. And you're ordering World Series tickets right now based on sweeping the Oakland Athletics? John, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with the people? Stupid me. I'll admit it. I thought the Padres would embark on a 10-game winning streak based on who they just came through all these different series. And instead, they went 6-6. They went 6-6, and I thought they had the potential to have a 10-game winning streak. And now, 12 of the next 19 are on the road. They go to Citi Field to play the battered New York Mets, but that's never easy. Then they go play the Phillies. And listen to this. When we get the first week of August, They got 9 road games in a row. Milwaukee, first place.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland, first place.
Mm-hmm.
Baltimore, first place. And then they get the Dodgers here.
First place.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, you're cheering sweep of the Oakland Athletics. I'm bemoaning 6-6 against who they just played in the schedule. I thought dude should have won 10 or 12 in a row. And look at what's ahead. Fernando Tatis, El Nino. Boy, is he hot. He's hotter than the damn weather right now, and the weather's pretty hot in San Diego. Hitting 280 right now. That big 17-game hitting streak just kind of came to an end. He's hit some home runs. I'll tell you what, I credit Jackson Merrill because he had the 290 start. I mean, he was a red-hot rookie. Started quick, faded. He was hitting 234 over about a month span. Now he's pushed his batting average back up to 278. He's out of the slump. And, of course, he hit the 2 home runs, the bombs. Boy, what a scary video of Jerks and Profar. When his knee buckled, I thought hyperextension. I thought torn meniscus. I mean, it looked really scary. He's such a powerful swinger, and I thought his spikes got caught when he twisted. I guess we dodged one there because it's patella tendonitis. If they shut him down, he's lucky it was not meniscus. The Musgrove situation really worries me. I talked to sports medicine people about plasma-rich platelet injections. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't work. They hope it calms down what's going on with the bicep and the elbow. But there's a bone spur there. And I'm not sure this is going to take care of the bone spur. And the bone spur, I think, stays there. And he's such a physical force pitcher, I think it aggravates it. If they have to scope the bone spur, he's probably done for the rest of the season. So we're holding their breath on him. Darvish thinks he's ready. He's going to throw a simulated game on Friday at Citi Field in New York. Then they hope XANDER Bogaerts CT on the left shoulder. From what I gather, it's healing much slower than they thought. Okay, so aside from you ordering World Series tickets for the Padres just based on what they did against the AAA Athletics, go ahead, give me your thoughts on Padre baseball.
Well, they did what they were supposed to do against the A's. You're right. They should have swept the Angels. They should have taken at least 3 out of 4 from Arizona. They failed there, but at least they beat the A's. They're a couple of games over 500. They're in a wild card spot if the season ended today. This is not where we want to be, but it's still not bad. And the Padres have typically performed pretty well against a lot of these top teams. In fact, I think they have a winning record against the Dodgers this year. So the future, there's still a good chance here. We're still weeks away from the All-Star break. I'm encouraged, and I love Merrill, what he's doing. The Profar thing was a bit scary. I'm just hoping Profar is healthy enough for the All-Star game.
Okay. Fans Forum, first question. If you're out there, you're a baseball fan, just jump in here. Pile on if you wish. Agree with me or agree with him. Fans Forum. Padres pretenders or contenders? It's only June. I understand it's only June. But dudes have lost 23 games to teams with losing records. That does not equate to buying World Series tickets, John.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. I mean, it's been a frustrating season. This is what's about being a 500 team, is sometimes they win and they look good, and then they lose and they look terrible, and it's like schizophrenia.
No excuses accepted. Looking for Padre fans, jump right now into our Fans Forum conversation. Next baseball topic, and this is the beginning of trade deadline watch.
Yeah, I like some of these rumors, and there's already been a couple of deals.
Yeah, let's talk about what is being rumored out there. The biggest one is the Dodgers. The Dodgers have resources to use, young pitching, young outfielders, young infielders. They have the assets to go make a deal to change their batting order. The bottom third of the Dodger batting order has been very disappointing. They are talking to the White Sox about all-star outfielder Luis Robert. And the White Sox are in fire sale mode. They're going to move maybe 2 to 3 more players. Dodgers are looking at Luis, home run hitter, all-star guy, has had some injury issues. The names I've been told, one of their young pitchers, outfielder James Outman, and the young outfielder Miguel Vargas. It would be a 3-for-1 deal. Robert would come here, probably sign a contract extension, though I think he's got 2 more years of Dodger ownership rights on his contract, but he's an all-star. At the same time, there's a lot of dialogue that maybe they're going to move Mookie Betts off shortstop and put him back to second base, because Betts has been in a slump. Betts is showing all the symptoms of being gassed, being worn out. He works so hard in all this pregame stuff, in terms of defensively, and he's played a great shortstop. They think it's impacting him just physically, that he's worn down, and he plays every game and every inning, takes every at-bat. So maybe they're going to flip him back to second base. I don't know if Gavin Lux goes to shortstop or whether there's somebody else. So Luis Robert, Dodgers, White Sox, that's item 1. Item 2, has not happened. It's rumored from baseball national writers. The Angels might go to Mike Trout and say, we are going into a complete rebuild. Do you want to waive your no-trade clause? We will try to put you on a winner. Are you holding on to the table?
Yeah, go ahead.
Evidently, they want to talk to the Giants, or the Giants want to talk to them about Mike Trout.
Wow.
Wow is right. However, price tag would be your top young pitcher, Kyle Harrison. Price tag might be your catcher, Patrick Bailey. Price tag might be the young shortstop, third baseman, Casey Schmidt, the ex-Aztec. Price tag might be Lamont Woods, or maybe Mike Yastrzemski. The price tag would be significant. But Mike Trout is 32, a lot of injuries. But when he's played, he's an MVP. Now, if the Giants were to make this deal, geez, they'd be stripping their roster, I think. Angels are also shopping Joe Adell and Taylor Ward, the 2 outfielders. I don't think they're going to get very much there. Third rumor, the Orioles. They're looking for another right-handed relief pitcher to complement the up-and-down erratic Craig Kimbrell. They're talking to the Angels about Carlos Estevez. Baltimore's got a wealth of young players and AAA guys in the farm system. The Blue Jays, well, they've already traded Kevon Biggio. He went to the Dodgers 24 hours ago. Super utility man, can play second. His insurance policy at third because Max Muncy continues to have setbacks with the oblique injury. He's not much of a hitter. However, the Blue Jays are also talking to the Red Sox and to the Cubs about Vlad Guerrero. And could you imagine Vlad Guerrero at Wrigley Field hitting home runs, or Vlad Guerrero at Fenway Park, a.k.a. Green Monster? So those are the baseball trade rumors out there. John, you and I are both in love with the baseball trade deadline, which doesn't come up till August 1st. But people want to make deals now to put themselves back into pennant races, or might be borderline pennant races, to make a difference. So Dodgers, Luis Robert. Angels, Trout to the Giants. Any of the other trades?
Well, Luis Robert, I'm still a little confused on this guy, because I remember he was this amazing Cuban player that they signed to a big deal. And I remember the Padres were flirting with him, a few years back when he came out. But hasn't he been injured a lot, or it's not been a smooth run for him?
All 3 are their young outfielders. Him, Eloy Jimenez, and the third one, they're always hurt, running into walls, things of this nature. But when he's played, he's been kind of rock solid, consistent, maybe in the 280s with some pop. But the White Sox, they're in tear down mode. They're trading everybody. So Dodgers, I go back to what I said at the onset. Dodgers have assets. Dodgers have resources. Dodgers have money. I guess where there's smoke, there might be fire. And Mike Trout to San Francisco, does that make sense? I could see Mike Trout to the Mets.
Yeah.
I could see Mike Trout somewhere else. But San Francisco, if they strip down what's on the roster now, it doesn't improve anything for Mike Trout, does it?
Well, the Mets are, I think, a lost cause. I mean, Cohen's going to try to get rid of Alonso, isn't he? I mean, I wouldn't go there. The Trout to the Giants actually could work. I mean, they've got some young assets. They've been rebuilding their farm system the last few years. I mean, everyone always kind of has this fantasy about Trout going back to Philly, and back in his hometown. I don't know where in the hell you'd play him there. I don't think they could fit him.
No, he fits in the Mets. If they're in rebuild, and if Alonso leaves or Alonso gets traded, Trout replaces him as the star, and the Mets have an owner that has unwritten amounts of money in his checking account.
So, but is Trout even going to play this year? I mean, what's his status?
Well, he's recovering from the knee surgery, but yeah, I think so. I don't know when, maybe the 1st of August, etc. But it's Mike Trout. It's a long-term contract. It's Mike Trout healthy, being an MVP type guy.
Yeah, so I think because he's hurt, because it's a long-term deal, I don't think the other team has to give up that much. I think the Angels will have to throw in a lot of money to have someone else take over that contract just to dump him. So, but good on the Angels for approaching Trout and trying to do the right thing for that guy, so he's just not buried at the bottom of the AL West for the rest of his career.
You're a baseball fan. There must be an Angel fan that follows us, because, man, we get responses on all my one man's opinion on the Angels. Jump on board. Is it time to ask Mike Trout to waive the no-trade clause, help him find a place where he can win when he gets healthy, and then actually get into the massive rebuild that the Angels need? Fans Forum chat room, that box is open. Jump on board. We go from talking baseball to talking about the huge story that's kind of overwhelmed us emotionally in the last 48 hours, the passing of Mr. Clutch.
Jerry West, the logo, has left us.
Yeah, Jerry West, Hall of Fame player, Hall of Fame general manager, Hall of Fame person. I interviewed him, I think, 3 to 4 times over my course as a talk show host in San Diego. I thought he was really special. I asked him about the phrase Zeke from Cabin Creek. He was born outside Charleston, West Virginia, in the mountains of that state. He was born into poverty, born into an abusive home, born into a family that lost his older brother in the fight in Korea that was devastating to the family. He became basketball royalty. Everything Jerry West touched became gold. Long distance three-point jumper, Lakers leadership, what he became as a general manager, what he became in the twilight of his career as just an ambassador for the NBA. Lakers, his era, West, Baylor, Wilt, Goodrich, pretty damn good, except that they ran into Red Auerbach and Bill Russell every year in the playoffs. They won only one ring as that team. West, the general manager. Showtime. That was Kareem. That was Magic. That was Worthy. Then they reinvented themselves a third time with Jerry West guidance. Kobe, Shaq, that era. A lot of people don't know Jerry West is the one that told the owner, Jerry Buss, hire that guy, Pat Riley.
Oh.
And look what that evolved into.
Yeah.
And then he did it again when Buss approached him and said, what do you think about this guy? He said, hire Phil Jackson. As different as Phil Jackson was, as aloof as he was, as much as the relationship between West and Phil Jackson kind of fell apart, he recommended hire this guy from Chicago. Then he became a consultant with the Clippers, then the Warriors, then the Memphis Grizzlies, and his input helped each of those teams, to a degree, turn into a winner. He was genius. He was brilliant. From a basketball perspective, he was unique in terms of his bond and his relationships with everybody. Now, he was haunted. Do you know Jerry West in the playoffs was 1 for 8 in the championship round? Won only one ring.
Yeah, well, look who he was facing every year.
Yeah, Wilt versus Bill Russell and the Lakers versus Red Auerbach and everything that Boston Celtics had. But as a general manager, he won 4 rings.
Nice.
And as a general manager, he built 8 different teams that went to the NBA Finals. I mean, this was a unique guy. And I'll tell you, I read his biography and it was moving. Zeke from Cabin Creek kind of sounds kind of cool, but his life wasn't cool. He was an introvert because of abuse from his father. He was haunted by the death of his older brother, who was his closest ally, who got killed in Korea in the war. Life became basketball for him. He sought perfection. He created a pressurized situation in his life that led to lifetime depression. He was a really complex individual. He sought happiness. He sought success. He never found peace. Do you know that he could not sit on press row and watch a Laker game?
Really?
He would not sit in the owner's box. He would walk to the end of the floor and he'd watch a piece of the game in the tunnel and then walk around the arena. There was just something from a chemistry standpoint inside of him that swelled up that made him intolerable for him to sit and observe, despite all the greatness of the Lakers. It
sounds like Billy Beane in the Oakland A's.
Yeah, exactly. So I hope he's found his peace. He was a hell of a guy. And I liked him because he always had time for us. And I mean, there was always a media crush around Jerry West, and he made time. Or if I was up there when I was doing talk shows based out of LA, and I'd go to Laker games, and I'd go in at halftime, and I'd see him in the tunnel and just say hi, and we'd talk for a little bit, just about whatever was on his mind, my mind, whatever. He was just, I was one of the more unique intellectual people. But man, he was a gold standard as it relates to basketball. And John Riley says,
I say, well, I know all about his accolades as a general manager and as a consultant. I know he helped out the Clippers and I think the Grizzlies
and Golden State.
But obviously he was the Laker GM before Mitch Kupchak, right?
Yes.
Okay. But the part of Jerry West that I don't know about is that he had retired from the NBA before I became an avid fan. And you hear the logo, you see some of the stats, but Describe for me what kind of a player was Jerry West, and is there any modern day player that's similar?
He was a gamer. He was Mr. Clutch, but he was surrounded by great talent. Yes, he did average 27 points a game in the course of his career, but he had Wilt, and he had the McAdoos of the world and the Gail Goodriches of the world. I mean, he really had good people around him.
Elgin Baylor.
Elgin Baylor, exactly. He called Baylor the best player he ever played with. There's a lot of good players he played against, like Oscar Robertson, et cetera, and that whole entourage from Boston. But he was a shooter, but he was very unselfish. I just think he was a complete basketball player. Nobody gives him credit for being on the all-time NBA defensive team.
Really?
That guy stuck his nose in his head, chronic broken nose, because he always got hit in the face by elbows trying to bust through screens and make stops and go for rebounds. Complete basketball player. Granted, different era. It's not the Magic Bird era. It's not the Michael Jordan era. But his era had really good players and obviously the greatest team of all time, probably in that whole collection of Boston Celtics guys, the Russells and the Tommy Heinsohns and the Jones brothers and Tommy Satch Sanders and Red Auerbach smoking a cigar. That was the thing that drove him crazy, that freaking Red Auerbach, after they continued to eliminate the Lakers, championship series after championship series, would sit on the bench in the empty arena smoking a cigar. It drove West crazy. He was haunted by it. But I just think he was a hell of a gentleman. You know, the weird angle to the story, the Clippers announced his passing.
Really?
Not the Lakers. Where the hell is the leadership of the Lakers? There's a statue outside the arena for Jerry West, and they didn't announce his passing. It came from the Clippers. Now, I think the divorce between the Lakers and the Lakers and Jerry West was kind of harsh and kind of tough. How do you not announce the passing of your own icon and you let the woe-begone Clippers, a.k.a. Donald Sterling era, now the Ballmer era, who've never gotten to the NBA championship, you let the Clippers make the announcement? That just drove me crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the Clippers enjoyed kind of sneaking that one in, as far as the announcement goes. But yeah, what a great player. I mean, when you saw him play, was he more of a perimeter guy or did he drive in the lane?
He did it all, but he could drill that sucker from the outside.
Oh, he could.
Yeah, he didn't take as many shots as Pete Maravich took. Maravich was just a great shooter. And obviously he was not the athlete and the explosive guy that Michael Jordan was. But in his era, he was the best of the best. And, that best included Oscar Robertson, and that best included all those great players on the Boston Celtics. And it included Elgin Baylor.
It was a great team. I mean, it seemed like in the 60s, it was always Lakers Celtics back then, kind of the first era of their rivalry. But I look back at old time basketball players from the 50s and 60s, and I think about the shoes they wore, because they wore those like Chuck Connors Converse All-Star high tops with like barely any sole, very little support. And it's amazing that there weren't a lot more injuries back in that day.
Well, they're different athletes. They weren't as explosive and going to the basket that way. And I don't think they put the force on their ankles and their Achilles and their heels then as these great athletes do today. But man, he was special. You're a Laker fan. Memories of Mr. Clutch, Jerry West. What a great, great player, executive. I tend to think great person. Next topic on the Lakers, and this is not going down very well.
Yeah, the coaching search, Lee. I mean, has there been new developments since Hurley is out?
Dan Hurley says no. The response in Los Angeles has just been downright ugly and bitter. LA Times lead columnist said this is the ultimate humiliation of the Lakers. This franchise should be in despair. It has shown us the dysfunction. Laker fans should be disillusioned. Now, what I don't quite understand, as harsh as that is, and columnist Bill Plaschke, who I really like, is a fine writer, they did make a hell of an offer. They met with him for 6 hours. And Dan Hurley came away saying, I was awed at the exchange of information with Pelinka and the meeting with Jeannie Buss. At the end of the day, he wanted to go home and he wanted to stay on the East Coast. And he said, I think the quote that we talked about on Monday was, my heart is on this campus in Storrs, Connecticut. So I think just, burning the Lakers organization at the stake the way the LA Times did, I thought was way over response. If they lowballed him and said, yeah, we want you to come, $3 million. I could understand
Mhm.
banging up. They offered him 6 years, 70 million plus bonuses on top of it if they kept winning world championships. And he called LeBron James a coach killer. Says nobody wants to coach LeBron. He says nobody wants to trust Rob Pelinka and his
So
player
Plaschke
personnel
said
decisions.
that?
Yes.
Or-
He
yeah.
just smoked him. I thought it was a little bit gross overreaction.
Right.
I think it was more about Hurley wanting to stay on the East Coast and stay home rather than accept the challenge in the NBA. They are meeting for a second time tomorrow and Sunday with J.J. Redick. They've already met a second time with New Orleans and San Antonio assistant James Borrego. Borrego's also a finalist for the Cleveland Cavaliers job. So I guess I'm going to disagree with the columnist in the LA Times because this was what Hurley wanted to do. It's not what the Lakers did not do. So we'll see where the Lakers go from here. And John Riley says,
So wait, so this was a 70 million over 6 years was the offer?
yes, plus if you win championships, there'll be add-ons.
So, like a little over 10 million a year plus maybe bonuses.
And he was making $5 million from UConn, and they're going to bump him up some, but there's only so much they can do.
Well, who's the highest paid coach in the NBA? And are they making more than 10 million a year?
I'd say it's probably close. I'm not sure whether it's Popovich. Steve Kerr's making an enormous amount of money. There's been a lot of turnover. It might be one of those two, but
How big was Tyrone Lue's re-extension?
I don't think it was that high. I want to say maybe 7 to 8 million. He was
Yeah.
making in the fours.
So that was, I've heard people say it was a lowball offer, even at over
No.
10 million a year. Sounds like he might have been the highest paid coach
Well, he
in
would
the
have been
NBA.
close, if not tops, state-of-the-art money. I mean, they were willing to write a check, an all-time high check for the Lakers, who are rich.
Well, again, it might be, cultural issues too, East Coast, West Coast, and, he's a big Jersey guy and all of that. I mean,
Well, I was told that he wanted input in player acquisitions, which would be taking some of the decision-making power away from Pelinka, and maybe he imagined that would be a problem. I was also told by an NBA East Coast writer that maybe it's got something to do with today's modern-day NBA player. You and I had talked about me being in your face.
Yeah.
And if you're LeBron James, how are you going to like me being in your face? Because that's the way he coaches.
yeah, and that works with college students. It doesn't work with guys making 10 times what you're making. So yeah, this is interesting, but let's see who's next. JJ Redick back in the mix.
Yeah, J.J. Redick's back in the mix. I was told that Coach K recommended Jay Wright of Villanova for the next conversation. I've not been able to find out whether or not Wright is interested. At least the people in Philadelphia that I canvass, they have not heard, or whether Wright even wants to get back into basketball at any level. So, but right now it seems to be two. It's either J.J. Redick or Borrego, unless something happens vis-a-vis Jay Wright. And the Dan Hurley thing kind of came out of the clouds, and there it was. Yeah, that's how they did a good job keeping that secret. So I guess anything is possible. Laker line is open. Do you agree the bashing of the Lakers organization by the LA Times, or do you think it was just a cheap shot column to get attention? We go from that to talking about the NBA playoffs that, John, are just about over.
It's just about over. I know it's 3-0, but Dallas made it interesting last night.
They did. You were watching the game like I was because we were texting. I did not know this statistic, and I'm a big numbers hound. I did not know that Luka Doncic has never committed a foul in his career in the NBA.
Never?
Did you see him whine and cry on every foul?
Constantly.
Yeah. And then he went crazy on the podium in the post-game interview. He says, come on now, it's the NBA Finals. 6 fouls on anybody? Come on now.
Yeah.
But, he's not a great defensive player. And, 1 or 2 might have been ticky-tack, but he fouled himself out with the 5th and 6th fouls, and those were legitimate fouls. So he was whining and crying. Doncic, I give him a lot of credit. He's playing with a lot of heart. He had a cortisone injection in this alien shoulder. He still continues to shoot the ball. He had 32 points last night. He's got the knee issue. He's doing everything he can. Kyrie Irving really had a bounce back game. He was 13 for 37 in the first 2 games. Now he went to the whole pile of times, created things, got some free throws. He had a good game last night, but it wasn't enough. And Dallas's outside shooting's been garbage. They were 13 for 53 in the first 2 losses. So they're in big trouble. But as I said going in, I told you should have stood on my side of the street corner and replaced these bets for beers. They just don't have enough depth. And Boston just keeps running guys in off the bench, and they all score, including the old dog, Al Horford. So this series is pretty much over. Now, of course, Boston's lost Porzingis again Kristaps Porzingis, who missed 8 weeks with a calf, then got healthy for games 1 and 2, has been filling it up. He got hurt in game 2. He's got a possible torn tendon in his lower leg, so it does not look like he's going to play. And Boston just never misses a beat, even with Porzingis out of the lineup.
Yeah, they don't need him.
Yeah, Brad Stevens, who went from coach to general manager, phenomenal job roster building. So looks like the NBA playoffs are about to end, and all the NBA guys are playing golf on Monday.
Yeah. Well, Brad Stevens might be one of those few examples that went from college ball to the NBA and was successful.
Yes.
We were talking about that a few weeks ago. Luka, did you see that one foul where Jaylen Brown was driving, towards the lane, and Luka seemed like he had position?
But if he's moving his feet, he doesn't have position. And I watched the replay, and the feet were shuffling so he could get position.
Yeah. But I saw other replays of him on defense, just horrible, just like chasing guys around, always out of position. I mean, the guy can shoot the ball. I'll give him credit there. He's got a game. He can create a shot. But
he's big and slow, and foot movement, that's far.
Well, he's a lot bigger and heavier than he was, let's say, 5-6 years ago, isn't he?
He's I'd say a big 250.
Yeah, he is. I mean, he's like a linebacker out there.
So there we are. Boston is about to go on vacation. You got comments about the NBA? Fans Forum chat box is open. Jump on board. Hey, we get to halftime. Our podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. There are 9 stores to serve you in San Diego. This guy introduced me to them. I'll let him tell you what DIXIELINE can offer you. He'd like to introduce DIXIELINE to you.
Yeah, so actually I have a good DIXIELINE story to share. But yeah, if you want lumber, building materials, doors, windows, kitchen, bath, decking, I mean, what a great place to go. 100 years of experience. And so I was actually talking to the DIXIELINE guys today, and one of the guys says, oh, here comes John Riley, the famous podcaster who's the co-host with Lee Hacksaw Hamilton. And I was laughing. And they all love you, Lee. I mean, they listen. The guys at DIXIELINE listen to the podcast. They all remember you being the voice of the Chargers and NXTRA 690. So everyone's loving the fact that you're back online.
And when it doesn't go well, it's your fault because you created this.
Yeah, and it's some technical glitch. You can blame me for that.
These are the guys. You got projects. These are the guys we want you to go call.
Now the summer came, we can go everywhere. So let's take it to the beach. Girl, it's just you and me. Now the summer came, so we can go everywhere. Let's take it to the beach. Girl, it's just you and me. Now when the summer's here, maybe we can disappear.
Podcast is also brought to you by North County Eye Center of Poway and Escondido. Here's an item. You might be 25 and like our podcast, but you might wear glasses. You might have contacts. You might be older, our age demographic. And at our age, we start having conversations about things like glaucoma and other eye ailments. You're going to need help with your eyes. And when that time comes, these are the people I recommend you call North County Eye Center. And right now, for everybody that's on our podcast, you get a free eye exam and 20% off on frames. Call North County Eye Center. Make an appointment to have a vision test. It's free. And make sure you tell them Hacksaw, the podcast. Thanks for being part of it. North County Eye Center. We're at halftime of our podcast on a Thursday. Couple of reminders. X marks the spot. Those of you on Twitter, you're all on Twitter. I want you to become one of my followers, and it's real easy. Just punch up Hacksaw at 1090. That's my Twitter account. Hit the button that says followers. Therefore, you'll get to see everything we put on board at Hacksaw 1090. Reminder, want you to be part of our insiders group. Go to my website, leehacksawhamilton.com. There's a big orange box. We got some special offers coming your way. Fill out the information on the orange box, become part of the insiders group. And he started this months and months ago, and it's pretty raging crazy. We're talking about what happens at the end of the podcast when you take over the show. It's like taking phone calls.
Yeah.
First-time callers, long-time listeners. Fans Forum, John.
Yeah, it is like phone calls. You're always saying hockey hotline, Lakers line. It's the same thing. Yeah, look who we got here. We got Angel and Callan and Derek and Matt and Mesa and who else is in here? Matt and Chris and Jamie. So we're going to get you all involved in Fans Forum here at the end of Hacksaw's Headlines.
And a reminder, if you like what we're doing, give us a thumbs up. Subscribe. Therefore, you'll get the alerts every time we put something up on our YouTube channel. We do that virtually every day. And tell a friend and give us a 5-star rating because that helps us a great deal. John, we go to the second half. Yeah, we got a few more topics on the table we're going to argue about.
Yeah, we do. And by the way, we have 117 live stream viewers right now, which is great. Thank you. We only have 1 like. Come on, folks, hit that like button. That gives us some love and kind of helps us in the algorithm. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the NFL with the Chargers, the OTA camps. What are you hearing, Lee?
Chargers have pretty much wrapped up their OTAs, and that coach and that quarterback, that's a good statement. They are wired. Jim Harbaugh just praised the quarterback, Justin Herbert, that he inherited. The rookie camp, the OTAs, then the veterans camp. He said it was like putting a first coat of paint, a second coat of paint, and a third coat of paint on our team as they installed all this stuff for this new roster that he's got. And he praised his players, saying we're taking advantage of every minute, every hour that we're in this facility. He says, now we'll find out next time we meet. We'll put pads on to see how tough we are. He called Justin Herbert an incredible talent, says the quarterback crushed the talent test that I gave him when he first got here. He said he's an off-the-charts leader. The Chargers made it official. The number 1 pick, Joe Alt, will start at right tackle. And Trey Pipkins, who was removed as right tackle, has gone inside. He's going to play right guard. And I think that's a pretty good move because he's big, physical, and he's got good feet. He says they think they have enough running backs. They do think the young wide receiver mix will have to grow into the job, but he believes the addition of Bud Dupree, the ex-Steeler, as a pass rusher, bringing back Denzel Perryman, who had moved around, to go with Bosa, to go with Khalil Mack, he thinks they're going to be good. Chargers did something really cool on the final day of the OTAs with all the veterans there. They practiced in Costa Mesa early in the morning. They came down. They bussed down the 50 miles down to Camp Pendleton, and they put on a private walkthrough for all the Marines and their families and their kids. It was really kind of cool. And then some of the San Diego media went there, and in his typical fashion, the First Family of Football owner, whose team is in last place, Dean Spanos, did not want to talk to the San Diego media.
Of course not.
And I can understand why, because he'd get blasted. But anyhow, Harbaugh just way off the charts in his praise of Justin Herbert. So you can be a fan, and the burning question is, I mean, they ripped half this roster apart. All the skill guys around the quarterback are gone. I mean, from Austin Eckler to all the receivers, the tight ends, etc. And they're trying to patch and fix the defense, and they think they had themselves a banner draft. So, John Riley, how good are they? What do you think, or don't we know till they start playing in September?
It's confusing, because the skill guys weren't necessarily the problem, that they had. I mean, they just had trouble running the ball. Their defense was really spotty. Their guys in coverage were always getting burned. So the fact that Harbaugh's coming in and installing a new system is good news, and he'll get these new draft kids to plug in and play in his scheme. I like that. But it's still a big question mark of what this is going to be, and if this is going to be a fast rebuild or if this is going to take some time. But you say the OTAs are done. So what's next on the schedule as we get closer to preseason football?
Well, they're on summer vacation until about July 23rd. So they've done the rookie draft orientation camp. Then they did 5 weeks of OTAs, and then they did the veterans full roster mini camp that they just completed. So now they're on vacation. Now players will continue to work out by themselves, work out on their own, and they'll come back. I think it's July 23rd. Most everybody opens camp simultaneously. So they've installed everything they're going to run, and now they just be repetitions. And as Harbaugh says, we'll get them into pads and see how they are. But he's got what a lot of other first-time head coaches don't have. He's got a quarterback. Most of these places, I've used this phrase, you probably heard me say it on the radio, when they clean house, place kind of resembles 3 Mile Island. There's nothing left and nobody around.
Right.
Not the case with the Chargers, at least not at the quarterback position. But awful lot of wide receivers, kids in the mix, and obviously going to try to replace Austin Eckler with 3 different people, but 2 of those guys have had injury issues. So it'll be interesting going in. I'm not ready to say this is a playoff team by any stretch of the imagination. Oh, by the way, Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid are still in the damn division too in Kansas City.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking is that there's no way they're going to knock off the Chiefs. I'm not sure about Denver and Bo Nix. Maybe there's some promise. The Raiders, you're not sure. So I think second place in the division is achievable. But I do like the fact they went to Camp Pendleton, because I remember when the Chargers were in San Diego, they would go to Miramar, usually once a year around this time frame, and it was just a cool outreach thing, for them to connect with the military.
And Harbaugh was asked about coming back to San Diego, and you think you're going to reopen some doors, San Diego fans? He says, "Well, we'll play for everybody in Southern California."
Not really. No.
I don't think so. We'll talk about him. We follow him. The people do watch him on TV. I don't think they're supporting him. I apologize in advance. I hope Justin Herbert goes 17-0, and I hope Dean Spanos goes 0-17, and that's what I feel.
But that's a contradiction. It doesn't make any sense.
I know there's counseling and medication for virtually everything. Okay, we go from that on to other topics on the table. We call it the NFL Notebook.
NFL Notebook. A lot of news and notes here, Lee.
Yeah, let's get started. This DirecTV lawsuit is now underway with opening statements and testimony about to begin. I talked to somebody who's got legal contacts within the NFL, and the general consensus from people is the NFL is going to lose this antitrust lawsuit. Now, it would be appealed, and then we'll see what happens upon appeal. But the lawyers that I exchanged information with are of the opinion that the NFL was involved with collusion. Okay, and the background on this, NFL has the TV contracts with the big networks, the CBSs, and Monday Night Football and ESPN and ABC and Fox. But they conspired with them to say, we're going to form what's called Direct Ticket, a Sunday Ticket on DirecTV. And we're going to take some marquee games from each network and put them in a package, and that will become add-on premium programming. And John Q. fan, John Riley, can subscribe to that for $399. The network's kind of beefed. You're taking some marquee games off each of us to create another layer, another revenue stream for the league. The league said yes. That, my friend, is what's called collusion, because the networks agreed to that. That's the genesis, and that's the basis of the lawsuit. The NFL's opening statements, it's premium programming. We can do what we want with our programming. You can't tell us what to do, because we are making a chunk of the programming available to John Riley so he can watch games on free. He can watch the Rams and the Chargers every Sunday, hometown teams, free. And he can get Monday Night Football, and he can get Sunday Night Football. Now, those, of course, are cable. That's kind of subscription, if you will. But it's not $399 to get the premium product. So, I don't know. Can you trust anything the NFL says anymore? Because it always seems to be about the money grab. So that's that story there. A Rams quarterback situation. He's in camp. Everybody's of the opinion that something's going to happen with Matthew Stafford and the Rams. This is the final year in which he has his all big guaranteed money. He's got 2 years left on his deal, 25 and 26, non-guaranteed. If he suffers some type of catastrophic injury, he could be released at the end of the season. He'd have no money at all. And his theory is, I'm laying it on the line. Every quarterback in the league is under a multi-year deal, some of it guaranteed in years 2 and 3 and 4. I want that in 25, 26, or 27. And at this point, the Rams have not had any conversations about that. There's some theory out there that he might not be coming to camp. And if that's the case, they got a quarterback issue, because the other guy is Jimmy Garoppolo, who's suspended, and the third guy is Stetson Bennett, who did not play last year.
Jimmy G.
So there's a big issue there with the Rams at quarterback. Atlanta Falcons, they just got nailed today. $250,000 fine, lost a 5th-round draft pick, tampering with Kirk Cousins before the actual free agent window opened. We were all shocked that Cousins, snap of the fingers, first day of free agency, committed to a mega contract in Atlanta. They're terrible. He went there for the payday because the groundwork was laid before the window actually opened, so the Falcons got killed. $250,000 fine. That's pretty stiff. Luckily, they didn't get number 1 draft pick stripped away from them. We wound up being number 5. Cousins has been told that he'll be ready, green light go for everything football related July 23rd when their camp opens. Michael Penix, 8th pick in the first round, surprise pick, University of Washington, took every snap with the number 1 unit, every snap from the rookie camp through the veterans mini camp. And they were pleased. They think he's really fast forwarded, but Cousins is going to be back. New York Jets, when he got there a year ago, one of the first things out of Aaron Rodgers' mouth was, "This is New York. I understand this is New York. In this building on Hempstead, Long Island, we want no distractions. This is about football. No distractions, no agendas, etc." And what does he do? He gets hurt. What does he do? He does not show up for the veterans minicamp. He's on vacation, traveling abroad, Europe or Greece, but no distractions. New York media is just losing its mind.
They should be.
But the Jets told them, we knew this was planned. That's why he was here for every one of the OTAs and the rookie camp. But now the most important camp with the entire roster on the field and the playbook installed, he's not there. Different set of rules for Aaron Rodgers, I guess, compared to the rest of the world. And it's an interesting story in Pittsburgh. The new quarterback is Russell Wilson. And he just praised the new offensive coordinator, Arthur Smith, who had come from Atlanta. He says, "I've revived my career in the last 8 to 10 weeks with Mike Tomlin, whom he really regards as a head coach and just got an extension, and with Arthur Smith." So he's all excited just about that situation. So those are the NFL storylines. John, $399. You don't think there was collusion? Because I tell you what, these lawyers that I kind of canvassed who know the knowledge of this information in the background, they do think it was collusion.
Well, you were saying that it's collusion because the networks agreed, but I thought the networks like ESPN and Fox and CBS, they were upset that they were taking those marquee games away and putting it behind a paywall. So I don't get it. I mean, to me, collusion, whenever you see this, it's not just in sports, but anywhere in the world of the economy, it's arbitrary. There is no specific objective criteria to determine if someone has a monopoly in a particular market. And so I just think this is nonsense, because if the NFL wants to put certain marquee games, they had games on Peacock last year, is that collusion? It costs us $5, and by the way, we don't have like a constitutional right to see the NFL for free. I mean, frankly, even when we get it for quote free, we're still paying Cox Cable or, whoever the cable TV outlet is. So I just think this is a bunch of crap. So I say, I hope the NFL loses this case. But to the other points on the other guys, Aaron Rodgers, that's ridiculous that he's not there. He's probably still flirting with Trump to be the VP. And then I love the story about the Steelers. I just think that's special. I mean, if Russell Wilson could turn back on and become this cool quarterback, and they do something creative with Justin Fields, that would be a really fun team to watch.
Yeah, and Pittsburgh's got heavy-duty running game, and he did not have that. Not in Denver, and obviously towards the tail end of Seattle. So I'll be fascinated to see how he does, but he was raving about Arthur Smith, and Arthur Smith, as a head coach in Atlanta, struggled a little bit because of injuries, but man, he had firepower and people that they moved the football up and down the field. So this is going to be fun. One other football note, I like what I've seen. It kind of surprised most of us. This involves San Diego State, Snapdragon Stadium, and one of the crown jewels of the sports scene here, the Holiday Bowl. It's moving from Petco Park, where it's been for 3 years. It's moving to Snapdragon Stadium because it is a football-only stadium. It'll seat 35. Maybe they can jam 40,000 in it, and it's good for the Holiday Bowl. And I'll tell you what, I'll give credit to the Padres, because the Padres wrote a check for $2.2 million. As a good citizen, they had to make changes at Petco Park so they could actually stage football. So the Padres did a good citizen gesture to help the Holiday Bowl. Now the Holiday Bowl is going back to a football-only venue, which will be good for the fans. Now, I think the sidebar story, nobody's really addressed it. We've not gotten any answers to it as it relates to where's the Holiday Bowl going to go to get teams? Because with the playoffs being expanded to 12 teams next year, a lot less teams for them to, quote, cherry pick and get. And their thing was, would have the Pac-12 representative in the ACC. Well, there's only 2 Pac-12 teams left, Oregon State, Washington State. They could still sales pitch one of the former Pac-12 teams, maybe an Arizona State or a Utah, whatever, come be in our bowl game, or whether or not Oregon or Washington would come, but maybe they would if they don't have banner seasons. Those guys are all part of the Big Ten or the Big 12. But I salute the Padres for being a good citizen, for doing what they did to help stabilize and cement the Holiday Bowl here, and now the Holiday Bowl is going back to a football-only venue.
Yeah, oh, that makes sense. It should go back to Snapdragon. Frankly, I was surprised they could wedge that field into Petco Park in the first place. But you kind of wonder about the viability of all these bowl games. Like you say, with the playoff system expanding, are they going to, with the 12-team playoff format, are some of those quarterfinals, semifinals, are those going to be bowl games like a Rose Bowl, Orange Bowl?
Exactly. I would sure like to hope that the first round games could be rotated amongst this other tier of bowl games, so that San Diego State Snapdragon Stadium could actually host a first round playoff game. But that this whole thing is about money, and this whole thing means 50,000 seat stadiums, etc. So we'll have to see. They've not designed how the 12 games are going to fall, especially the opening rounds, where they're going to wind up. If they included the Holiday Bowl and the Citrus Bowl and some of these other bowls that have a long tradition to be host of these first games, I think it'd be really good.
That's the right answer right there.
I'm smart. I agree. I am
you are bleeping brilliant.
Thank you very much. Okay, last topic on the table. Anybody out there play golf? Jump on board. This is the start of a really great weekend on the tour.
Yeah, the U.S. Open getting started here, Lee.
Yeah, Pinehurst. It's hot, it's humid, and the greens are gobbling everybody up. Everybody was struggling to make par. They're still in the middle of the first round today, being the first day. This is I guess I could call it the Scotty Scheffler Invitational. He is so hot. I mean, Scotty Scheffler has won 5 tournaments this season. Can Xander Schauffele get into the running for a second Grand Slam? Rory McIlroy says his game has really come together. Is he going to be a player in this? Patrick Cantlay, who was the early first-round leader, early tee time on Thursday, he's there. Really tough. Tiger was 8 strokes back last I checked and done. Even worse for Phil Mickelson. Tiger shot a 74, 8 back. Mickelson shot a 79, as did Dustin Johnson. These guys who went to the LIV are not playing real well. So that's topic 1, what's going on at Pinehurst. Topic 2, Tiger Woods kind of leaked this. PGA and the LIV have held 2 negotiating sessions in the last 2 weeks. They are pushing the envelope to try to get a solution to, quote, the merger. And the only thing Tiger Woods would say, yes, I took part in a negotiating meeting. I think it was on Monday, the day before he went to practice at Pinehurst. He said, I see a light at the end of the tunnel, but he wouldn't give any details. Is the light at the end of the tunnel a merger as it relates to the LIV guys being allowed to come back and play on the Pro Tour free? Or do they have to pay their way back in because they violated the tour card? He would not go there. Rory McIlroy had a really intriguing comment also on Monday. McIlroy said the PIF, the Public Investment Fund, Saudi Arabia, they invest money, lots of money in lots of things. John Riley, if they invested in you, they do expect a return.
Yeah.
And Rory says they have not gotten the return on golf. And they are really upset in Saudi Arabia about what was created by Greg Norman and what has not happened in the 2 years so far. Keep an eye on that. TV ratings. Last Sunday, I watched the end of the Memorial. That was pretty electric. Jack Nicklaus's tournament in Dublin, Ohio. Did anybody watch LIV? You ready for this? Sunday, final round Memorial, 2.8 million viewers for the Memorial.
All right.
LIV. Were you one of the 145,000 that watched the final round of the LIV?
Yeah. That's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, no wonder they're not making a return on their investment.
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. And now another story just surfaced yesterday. The USGA, which runs the US Open, this tournament at Pinehurst, have confirmed that their group, their rules committee, is sitting and meeting and talking about creating a waiver exemption for guys who left to go to the LIV. Now, it's not my driver's license. I'm a star, used to be a star. It's not Dustin Johnson saying, here I am, take me. But if you're having an exceptional year this year, if they form this new rule, whoever's hot at the top of the LIV leaderboard standings, money, etc., could get an exemption to play in the U.S. Open. Because right now you have to qualify to the U.S. Open based on points and all that, and then they're not getting world ranking points in LIV. But the USGA says we want the greatest fields we can have for the fans at Pinehurst. So maybe next year we'll have an exempt status. So John Riley, from January into the 1st of June, if you're playing well on LIV, you could get the exemption and you would get the chance to play in the U.S. Open. It would be only that tournament. So that's what's being discussed there. So, I saw your ball, by the way. You hit that, you hooked that, or was it shanked? You hooked that shot. It's under my left front tire of my car out in the driveway. You got to get better off the tee.
I got to get better off the tee. I'll tell you what. But they just need to merge these two organizations.
But how? There's so many different agendas. How do you merge them?
Well, if they don't merge them, then they're both going to continue to suffer, and the Saudis are not going to be getting an ROI. I'm frankly shocked how much money the Saudis are pouring into LIV, and the fact that they only have 145,000 people watching them, and I don't even know what kind of ticket sales they have. I mean, it's like, Dustin Johnson's like on another planet. I mean, I don't even know what's going on with the LIV. If I wasn't hanging out with you, I would know zero about the LIV.
I watched it was the 17th and 18th holes on the final day on Sunday on LIV. And I swear to you, there weren't 25 people around the 18th green on the final hole of the final day of the LIV tournament.
That's insane.
Nobody's paying attention to it.
Yeah. And you see it, some of those PGA ones, that 18th hole, I think especially at the Waste Management Open, they just all gather around and around the final green. I love that. The other comment was about Pinehurst. Okay. And where is that? It's like in North Carolina.
In the Carolinas.
And you always hear about some golf courses in America that are very special, and Pinehurst is one of them.
It's right there. It's not, I don't think it's held in the same esteem as Augusta, but it's close.
Very close, yeah. But I know it's the U.S. Open's there, but the U.S. Open has been there periodically.
Well,
right?
the U.S. Open rotates all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just history. It's just great history, and it's a really tough course. Greens just eat you up. And if you watch closely, like today being Thursday, or if you look at just to watch a little bit on Friday and the pin placements on Friday, and then circle back on Saturday and Sunday and see where they put the pin placements. Because the pin placements might be in the middle of the green on Thursday and top part of the green on Friday. And Saturday and Sunday, they're on the periphery of the green. And if you miss the shot, it goes down the hill. Maybe it goes into the water, into the rough. I mean, the history of the U.S. Open, it's not a golf course. It is an obstacle course.
Oh, absolutely.
They load that sucker. And these greens at Pinehurst they just eat you alive.
I just think the groundskeepers at these courses are unbelievable.
Yeah.
I mean, just the way they can keep the greens so smooth without any divots. And you figure they're pulling holes out and filling holes over there. Those guys do a great job.
Good deal. Hey, listen, this podcast is brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers. 9 locations in San Diego to serve you. Got projects? They've got solutions for you. And by North County Eye Center, Poway Escondido, offering free eye exams for our viewers now. Just call North County Eye Center. Tell them Hacksaw and his podcast invited you to make the phone call. We're all going to need help with our eyes sometime. Make that call. Get that free eye exam now at North County Eye Center. Ready, set, go. John, your turn.
All right, here, let's go to Jamie, kick us off. He says, I think the Padres need more pitching, and we need to send Matsui back to the minors. I don't trust him at all.
Well, he's a little bit hot, a little bit cold. I'm worried that maybe scouting reports kind of figured him out. He is walking more batters than he did early on, but he threw 98 against the AAA Oakland A's. I mean, he had velocity and he had pretty good location. I don't think he's as much of a problem, but he's been a little erratic. I don't know what they're going to do with Daniel De Los Santos. He's given up home runs at an alarming rate. Yeah. He's this year's version of your guy, Emilio Pagan, who's gone. So they're going to have to do some adjustments. I mean, the rumors are out there everywhere that A.J. Preller's trying to make a deal. But the problem is everybody knows who the Padres' marquee guys are. And he's not going to trade Rob Snelling, the pitcher, who's kind of stalled the Double-A. And even though Ethan Salas is hitting 194 at Fort Wayne in A-ball, I doubt they're going to trade him unless it's a mega trade. And I don't think they want to trade the young shortstop up here in Lake Elsinore, DeVries, who started to hit and started to play a little bit better. So I just don't know how many assets AJ's got to make the kind of deal that maybe he wants to make if he wants to get. And the other question is, does he want a right-handed reliever or does he want another starting pitcher? Because this injury thing with Musgrove is pretty scary. And I know you like him, but pal, I'm not willing to try to stay in a pennant race with Randy Vasquez being one of my key starters. And I just don't know how to trust some of the other guys at the back end of the rotation. I mean, Matt Waldron has done well in some starts and other starts can't control the knuckleball. So he may have to find a way to make a deal and get another starting pitcher to plug in.
Well, first of all, Matt Waldron isn't just shaky. Matt Waldron is killing it.
Well, he's killing it right now, but that's a start-to-start process.
But it's gotten better and better, and that knuckleball is dancing. It's fluttering.
Combined with a 91-mile-an-hour fastball that's suddenly in on your hands and you can't get around on it. No, I give him a lot of credit. He's got a lot of grit, and obviously so does Michael King, and so does Dylan Cease. But I'm just not sold because Vasquez has these bad outings and has bad innings and then gets bailed out.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think you can live on the ragged edge the way he pitches. And, we don't know about Joe, and we obviously are hoping that Yu comes back, but he's had 2 muscular injuries now this season alone. And Musgrove, I don't know if you know this, Musgrove's had 5 significant injuries in 14 months.
5? But we knew about the shoulder capsule. What are the
shoulder capsule, twice the elbow.
Oh, the toe as well.
And a fractured toe.
Yeah.
It's a bit of an issue. So we'll see if AJ makes a deal.
Matsui looked great at the beginning of the season. You're like, oh, this little lefty, he was pretty good. It just seems he just lost his command because that ball is like that slider or curve kind of comes from 10 o'clock down to 4 o'clock. And he just always seems to be out of the zone. I think a couple of tweaks, he'll be fine.
He was clocked at 98 when he beat the AAAs.
Well, hey.
AAAs.
You got to beat the AAAs, and he did it.
On we go. Next question on Fans Forum.
Okay, let's go to Chris. He says, this is a no-brainer for the Dodgers. Plug Luis Robert into the outfield for the next few years. Send over Outman and Vargas and an arm. The only thing that might hold up this deal is if the White Sox won't take on Dave Roberts in the remaining 2 years on his contract. React to me.
Oh, man. Dodger fans are piling on Dave Roberts right now. But, Dodger fan, I'm look at the scoreboard, would you? The Dodgers got 12 guys on the disabled list, 11 of them pitchers, and they're still in freaking first place. So what are we whining about here? You're in first place by 7 or 8 games in a really weak division with 11 pitchers on the DL, and you're about to get some of these pitchers back. Kershaw next week, I'm led to believe, is going to throw rehab, and he's already been clocked at 90 with no setbacks in the bullpen. Bobby Miller is throwing his final rehab, might be Thursday or might be Friday in AAA. He's going to be back. Gavin Stone is 7-2. I mean, that's the surprise of all.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, why are you whining? I mean, look at where they are and all the problems they've had, and look at where they are right now. Now, I do think they have a decision to make what they're going to do about this Mookie Betts situation because he looks worn out. And with the Dodger coaches saying his work ethic is off the charts in terms of how much he does before the games in terms of shortstop. Well, there's a wear and tear factor, and he puts a lot of pressure himself as the leadoff guy. And I mean, he was hitting the 330s, and I think he's down into the 260s more recently. It's just not hitting for power. So Luis Roberts, pretty good player. And the Dodgers are really deep in assets to put together a 3-for-1 package for Luis Robert of the White Sox. So that might be the next significant deal. Padres have already made 2 deals of significance well before the trade deadline. So the Dodgers might be the next one to dive in there. But, Chris, they're in first place. They're in first place with 11 pitchers on the DL. Nobody else in the world could stand the loss of that many guys and still be in first place.
Yeah, well, they did have a skid there for a while, right?
They stopped hitting.
Yeah, against the Reds and the Pirates. But it's still amazing to me that they're doing as well as they are with all those guys that are on the injured list.
And Max Muncy's not had a third setback with the oblique.
Well, when Clayton Kershaw comes back, I mean, he's not going to light the world on fire. He's going to be like Walker Buehler, right? He's going to be kind of hit and miss, inconsistent, kind of sputtering. So we're still not sure what's going to happen here. The Mookie Betts story to me is interesting because, first of all, what a fantastic athlete that you can play right field and win Gold Gloves, and you can go into shortstop and play second base. And he's such a good character guy, a good leader. I mean, there's nothing bad about Mookie. But yeah, maybe he needs to move off of shortstop because his play is declining. And frankly, I think he's a better asset to the Dodgers if he's in the outfield. It just Gavin Lux can't play shortstop because he was goofing it up all the time.
Yeah, he had a lousy spring training, which got him demoted and sat on the bench and didn't hit. Now it's kind of odd. He started to hit the ball. I mean, he was batting 203, and they were going to send him out. And then they had the injuries, and they kept him on, and he's been hitting like 300 for the last 10 days.
Wow.
So, Dodger fan, no whining. You're in first place with all those problems. Next question.
Okay, let's get Derek on the Laker line. He says the Lakers management was out looking for a coach that was willing to work for them. That's probably why they didn't make the Jerry West announcement, right?
Derek is responding to my question. How could the Lakers, with the passing of one of their icons, not make the announcement themselves. They let the guy across the hallway, the Clippers, make the announcement about the Laker legend. Just, I don't know where the Lakers' mind is right now. They're not paying attention to everything, in addition to not having a coach right now. But I do side with the Lakers. They made a phenomenal offer to get Dan Hurley, and he elected emotionally to stay on the East Coast. I thought the LA Times column was a real cheap shot.
Well, let me ask you this. Do you think it's a problem with leadership with the Lakers? I mean, we often talk about the Chargers, and the problem was Dean Spanos. Is Jeannie Buss a problem for LA?
I think it is. And maybe the basketball people around her are part of the problem. I mean, she's the one that appointed the former player agent to become the general manager, Rob Pelinka. And yeah, they did win a championship in 2020 on a 40-game schedule, whatever they played that year.
In the bubble.
In the bubble. But they haven't done anything since, and they've just revolved that roster. I mean, it's like Grand Central Station. Ever been on a subway where you go through the turnstiles?
Yeah.
That's what the Laker roster has been for 4 straight years, trying to find the right guy coming out of the turnstile to be on the team, to be the third wheel or the fourth wheel or the bench guy. And outside of Austin Reeves, there's not a hell of a lot of trustworthy guys there.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah. It just doesn't seem to make some sense to me.
I think it's an organizational thing at the top of the organizational chart. And whose name is there? Jeannie Buss.
Yeah.
Next question.
Let's move on. Let's go to Callan. Canada Network of San Diego checking in. This is from Callan. He says, it really feels like Edmonton needs to win game 3 or Florida is breaking out the brooms. Bobrovsky wins the Conn Smythe, in my opinion. Florida wins it all.
Well, I don't think it's a walkover. I think it's hard for Florida to do this in Edmonton, and these guys will play passionate. And I'll say this. I mean, the Oilers just shot the lights out in game 1 and got shut out because Bobrovsky stoned them. And then in game 2, Florida scored actually one quality goal, but they suffocate you. They check you all over the ice. They don't let you build speed at center ice to get the puck into the zone. They're just a tough team to operate with. And by the way, they got a lot of goal scorers, whereas Edmonton right now has got one line, if you will. It's Connor McDavid and Draisaitl and Zach Hyman, and the other lines have just totally disappeared. But it's in Edmonton, and I tell you, that place rocks. From the minute they sing "Oh Canada," you can't sit down. The bedlam, the noise is unbelievable, and Oilers do play a lot better. So they can score a couple early. They're back in it. They win this one. Then they're back in the series because they could probably win game 2. Obviously, they're going to have to go into Florida, but they went into Florida and should have won game 1 and got stoned by the Russian goaltender. So I don't think this series is far from over at all.
Now, they're playing tonight, right?
Yes.
Tonight in Edmonton.
Did you get any Molson's Canadian? I want Molson's Canadian with my pizza.
Yeah. It's just, you get the beer here from Molson's, Moosehead beer. I'll tell you what, though, the O Canada Network from Winnipeg, they're really happy you're not wearing that Oilers shirt anymore.
I've got a Jets shirt. I should have worn it sometime during the year. Full disclosure.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I got all this radio gear with logos. So I traded one of my extra 690 hoodies for Winnipeg Jets hoodie. So I've got a Jets hoodie. So I'll have to wear that one of these days in the middle of the summer to appease part of the old Canada Network. But
well, even your shirt today has a Snapple logo on it.
As I said at the onset, do not adjust your cell phone or your computer screen. There's nothing wrong with what's on the video. It's just my shirt that's causing this thing to go that way. All right. Oh, Canada, thanks for joining us. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Manny. He says, I asked last year about the Padres, and I will ask again. Who is the team captain? Maybe if someone steps up, the Padres can compete in more games.
Well, I don't think they have a clubhouse problem. I think it's different. I do think Mike Schiltz's word carries a lot of clout, and I think they listen to him. Now, he protects them.
Definitely.
Everything is beautiful. Hey, your ass is a 500 team. You should have won 12 games in a row based on who you just played, and you went 6-6. I'm the only one in the media that's critiquing where they are right now, and I understand injuries. But I think Schiltz done a really good job directing them, motivating them. And they got guys that are dinged. I mean, Manny has not been Manny. That's the byproduct of the elbow. And now he's obviously got the hip flexor thing. He can't run hard at this point in time. Now, he may be playing third base this weekend against the Mets, but I think they got a roster full of guys who can do. You're renting Tyler Wade with a hope 1 or 2 games a week he'll do something for you, and they got the outfielder they got from Arizona, and he can occasionally hit. Has not hit much lately, but has hit in this last series against the Triple A's. He hit pretty well. David Peralta. So I think they're doing well, but they are dinged up in the pitching staff, and that kind of worries me going because there's still almost more than half a season to go, and the rotation's not healthy.
Yeah, there's a lot of question marks. It's hard to keep all those pitchers healthy. The whole thing about a captain, though, is interesting because is that something that the players vote on, or does the management decree?
Manager decrees. We've had great captains. Tony Gwynn was a great captain. Caminetti was a firebrand. That's a different personality. Musgrove could be a captain to a degree, but he's a pitcher. Normally, your captain is an everyday guy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of new people that are, quote, part of the everyday guy that are on this roster right now. And, Tatis to me, is too young. I don't think Machado is loud enough. Soto was definitely not that guy. He was Mr. Me, Myself, and I. So I think true vocal leadership, it's not there because the roster's got so many young guys, new guys on it.
Well, Manny is the de facto captain.
Should be.
You even see it in the post-game interviews where they will defer to Manny's leadership. It's just he doesn't wear a C on his chest. I mean, Derek Jeter, that was his nickname, right? The captain.
Mm-hmm.
Was elected as a captain or
by the managers? By
the manager.
Right.
Okay. But what's the role of the captain officially? I mean, it's really mostly just being a figurehead, a spokesperson for the team, right?
Yeah, and when times get tough, the captain is the one that says we are shutting the doors and we're going to have a players-only meeting. And that happens every team, every league. Sometimes it happens more than a couple times a year just based on a team that's struggling or underachieving, et cetera. But that's what the captain does. And a captain leads by hitting 280 with home runs or playing Gold Glove, third base, whatever. So Manny's not vocal. He's not. He is at the polar end of the spectrum compared to, I dealt with Gwynn and I dealt with Caminetti, and they were firebrands. That this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it. I'm picking up the flag. Follow me.
Yeah.
That's not Manny.
It's not Manny at all. That's the tricky part. It's like, who could be the captain? And I'm just kind of thinking it through in my head, and you're going like, well, Profar, no. Merrill's too young. Xander, no. But, Jake Cronenworth, maybe. I mean, he seems like he has the character. He's only been in the league for about 4 years.
But he's having a productive season, and he's strong-willed.
Yeah.
That's not a bad call. Maybe not this year. Maybe next year.
It's got to be Manny. I mean, they should just anoint Manny and just make it his team.
Okay, on we go. Next question.
Okay, let's move on. We'll go here to Derek. And he says, Aaron Rodgers was there for 16 of the games last year when everyone was on the field either.
Well, he wasn't there because of the byproduct of the injury, but he was there, working with the coaching staff and all that. It's just that he's the one that made the public comment about immediately now in Hebston, Long Island, where the training facility is, there's not going to be any more distractions. And here we are, the most important mini camp where everything's been installed, and now the first unit's going to run everything they just put in. And he's in Greece or he's on some trip abroad. It just sends a bad message. And the New York media, the tabloids, John, they're going crazy. You would think that Aaron Rodgers assaulted the Queen or something by virtue of how he acted. So this is going to be fun to watch. I mean, if they don't have a good season, holy cow, it's going to be hard on him because he's never been treated that way by the media. And these New York tabloid papers, the Post and the New York Daily News, they're just going to go crazy about Aaron Rodgers. And the freaking fans who ride the subway, everybody is sitting on a subway reading everything the tabloids
are saying. But there's just so much off the field fodder for, to go after Aaron Rodgers on, whether you like him or not. There's just a lot of content.
He's a great player, but now all of a sudden we got this distraction after he told me a year ago at the press conference, there's not going to be any more distractions or the Hempstead training facility.
It's got to be rough being a Jets fan, man. I mean, those guys, they just struggle. Have they been...
Not recently.
They've been in the Super Bowl and Super Bowl III. Have they made the AFC Championship in the last 10 or 20 years? I don't know.
All you need to do is go back and look at how many quarterbacks they drafted that did not pan out.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Next question.
Okay, let's go here to Cal. And he had another comment. He says, I believe the first-round games are going to be held at on-campus sites.
Well, that is the first-year game plan. I totally disagree with having a team in the playoffs hosting a home game packed in the stadium with all their fans. You got the bowls. The bowls are suffering. Holiday Bowl is suffering. It's not what it was before for a lot of different reasons. The Citrus Bowl, the Gator Bowl. I mean, these are all marquee events that have been very important emotionally in the fabric of the community. Why not take the first round games and put them in, I hate to say tier 2 bowls because that makes it sound shabby, but put them in these long established bowls and let them host the first round games. And if you can do it regionally, if there's a first round game on the West Coast that involves Oregon or Washington or whomever, put it here on the West Coast, put it in Snapdragon Stadium or one of these other stadiums, and you'll probably fill it up. And that would keep these bowl games functional and alive and give them just a new brand.
Oh, absolutely. It's a no-brainer decision to do that.
I'm not a dummy. I know what I'm talking about.
Well, you know, the Red River Showdown between Oklahoma and Texas takes place in Dallas, like roughly halfway between the two. They fill up that stadium. It's a huge event. The fans flock to it. No one's bitching and moaning that the game isn't at home. They like it, that it's at this interesting neutral site. So, yeah, I mean, maybe this year they need to use the home field because they haven't got all their ducks in a row with the bowls, but we got to get to that point where all these bowls play a part in the playoff.
Yeah, that's what I told the executive director of the Holiday Bowl. I know they've struggled with the relationships with these conferences and the quality of teams they're getting. And they've done a great job on the Holiday Bowl. You know, but I told Bruce Neville, you need to become the front runner and lead the consortium of this next group of bowls and say, we want to host the first round games, because then it makes San Diego destination point. You sell out the game. It helps the finances of the Holiday Bowl. And I'll tell you what, the same thing should be discussed in Orlando with the Citrus Bowl, or in Memphis with the Liberty Bowl, or the Gator Bowl that used to be in Jacksonville. Do it. First round games, make them there. And then you can take the second round games. You can put them in Jerry's World in Dallas or in the Rose Bowl or whatever.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I mean, you need to be the commissioner.
Yeah. I don't have enough things that I'm doing right now. Next question.
Next question. Okay, let's go to Danny. And he says, love what Smack Saw does, and I miss him on the radio. I just found out that the coach, John Quintera, has his own YouTube channel. Now we are missing Philly Billy and Steve Hartman.
Well, Philly Billy does a talk show in Philadelphia on a small 1,000 watt station. He has me on, the coach on, maybe once a month just to talk sports. So Bill's doing was build. It's kind of hard, though, because Philly Billy is a great friend of mine. I helped get him hired out here. Philly Billy's world stopped in 1978. I swear he probably has a black and white TV at home. Philly Billy does not have one of these. He does not have a computer.
No computer at all.
Philly Billy does not know how to access the internet. Philly Billy probably still has a dial phone at home in Philadelphia where he calls all his contacts and he writes notes. His world stopped in 1978, but he's great. But it's cool. We, you know, of all the guys that did sports talk radio collectively together, our podcast has been very successful. Scott Kaplan's podcast, The Field Goal Kicker, Wide Right, he's got a podcast that's worked well. John is just kind of moseying in to the podcast world, and we're going to have John back on as a co-host here when I get tired of this guy broadcasting from left field with his opinions. So, you know, it takes a lot of effort, it takes a lot of money. You do have to write a bunch of checks to make this execute. So that's why we ask you to frequent our sponsors and tell them the Hacksaw sent you. It's really, really important to keep this going. But you're right. This has worked pretty well. John and I think, have been linked for more than 15 months. I have not checked recently. I'm not sure what our subscriber number is, but it was north of 5,000, which was pretty good coming out of the gate.
Well, that's just on YouTube, you know, so you have over 16,000 followers on Instagram. You know, your Twitter presence is still really good. I mean, you were doing a lot of Twitter before we started the podcast. So, yeah, I mean, you're expanding into TikTok and on Threads. I mean, you're everywhere, Hacksaw.
Think the Chinese like me?
Yeah, well, you know, they better not ban TikTok.
He did a research piece, and I had not seen this till about a month ago. I think it encompassed the first 15 months of our podcast and all the other social media stuff. We've had 1.8 million people sample this podcast and my columns and everything I do on Instagram and all the other social. Think about that. 1.8 million people.
Yeah. And that's a legit number, you know, because we added them all up across all the different social media.
Well, here's an example. We did a commentary on Trevor Bauer, Make the Phone Call, about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And we had 55,000 views on that one man's opinion in like a week.
And that's just Instagram.
Yeah.
That same video is getting views on YouTube, is getting views on Twitter. I mean, so yeah, I mean, the numbers are unbelievable.
Yeah, we did one, a commentary on Stan Kroenke Rams versus Dean Spanos.
Right.
We had 440,000 views on my one man's opinion column on that. We had 330,000 on the passing of Peter Seidler and the money problems with the Padres. So what we say carries clout, and everybody's sampling it. You may agree or disagree with it. I understand that, but everybody we know is sampling it. So, Danny, you're right. This stuff works.
Well, I love the fact that all your former, fans, I'm one of the fans
and haters
and the haters, they still love Philly Billy, and they still love all the guys. But there's another guy from 690 that's done pretty well, Jim Rome.
Oh, well, exactly. Yeah, he's done exceptionally well. And now he's no longer on network TV. He got put on waivers and he's gone to X, like we've gone to X. And, so he's doing his show on Twitter, AKA X now.
I've been seeing replays of the Jim Everett fight with Jim Rome on my YouTube subscription. And that kind of put him on the national map.
That was the marquee event that almost knocked him off the air.
Yeah.
Too. Okay, a couple more here on Fans Forum.
Okay, let's go here to Steve. He says, what bugs me? Last year, all the Padre games were put on Channel 4 on Cox. This year, they put it on another channel, and it costs way more to watch now. And the stinger is they're playing commercials during the game. The one game I wanted to see was on Fox. Got rained out. Got Pitt on Fox Sports 1. I don't have it.
Well, everything's changed in terms of broadcasting now. I mean, I happen to have Spectrum. So I get to watch Padre games on channel 305. Cox Cable, I think it was on channel 4. Then they started Padres TV, which is $19.99 a month subscription. And of course, all that has to give way if the Padres are on a national game, if they wind up on Fox 1. And if they gets delayed by rain, sometimes it gets bumped to Fox 2. It's really hard to follow the team. But if you have Spectrum or Cox, you should be able to see all the games because they announced that all the games are on the same channels that they were on last year. And of course, if you subscribe to DirecTV, which that's the only other thing I subscribe to, you can watch it. I think it's channel 694.3. Mm-hmm. So the Padre games are there on some of the different cables or the true subscription package.
But still, sometimes they'll play on Apple TV. Mm-hmm. And have you watched any of those games? You do subscribe to Apple?
I came over here, but you weren't home. Yeah, I knocked on the door. Nobody answered. The dog barked.
It's the broadcast visually on Apple TV is fantastic. It's like 4K, really crisp graphics is what you'd expect from Apple. But the play-by-play guys, it's not our Don and Mud. It's like some of these national dudes, and they're just not anywhere close to as entertaining. But yeah, for some people, this is trouble, finding the games. But speaking for myself, I remember back as a kid in the 70s, and I'd want to watch the San Francisco Giants. You'd be lucky to get a game a month on TV.
I was a kid growing up. Now I was different because I grew up on Long Island, and we had access to the New York Yankees, whom I hated, the Brooklyn Dodgers, and the New York Giants. They were all on TV where I grew up on Long Island. But I remember as a kid in upstate New York, I'd spend the summers, you get one game, the Saturday game of the week with Kurt Gowdy.
Kurt Gowdy, yeah.
And black and white TV.
Joe Garagiola.
It's different now. It sure is different now.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for that. We got any social media things here you want to throw at us?
We do. Okay. Over to social media and involved. And okay, we're talking a little bit about captains with the Padres. This one fits. This is from Ham Bean. It says, maybe you need to get rid of some of the cancer in the dugout.
Ham Bean, I don't think there's any cancer in the dugout. They got injured players in the dugout. I just think, as we talked about prior, I think Mike Schilt has taken control of that clubhouse, and he is strong and he is staunch in what he believes. He doesn't say it publicly. Everything is beautiful. He doesn't berate anybody publicly when he's in the dugout with us in the media. But I think there's a different message delivered. And I don't think there's a lot of politics in that clubhouse right now. That's my perception from being down there.
Yeah. People love to hate on Manny. I mean, that's who he's talking about. Exactly. The cancer. Manny is just a little bit of a different guy. He's not a cheerleader. He's not Johnny Hustle. We already know that. But I see good vibes in that dugout, and clearly they're playing for the camera. They know the camera's on them when they do their high fives coming back from home runs. But I'm not sensing that there's a cancer on the team. And to your point about Schilt, I'm really starting to really like this guy, and his perspective, because he's different.
Deep thinker.
Yes, he is.
Now, I happen to think Bob Melvin was a really smart guy, but obviously the message was either blocked by AJ Preller or the message did not get through. And of course, that clubhouse was different a year ago with Soto, Mr. Me, Myself, and I.
Yeah. I mean, that was, I think that might have been a cancer, legitimately.
On we go. Next question.
On we
social
go.
media.
Caitlin Clark question here. This is from Miss Graves. It's all just theater. Heroines and villains, roller derby repackaged. Is that the WNBA league?
That's what some of the people in the WNBA have become, roller derby queens. The Angel Reeses of the world. And, I'll swing back to what I said. And Caitlin Clark's had a tough couple of weeks, John. I don't know. She got benched the other night. Indiana's 3-10. They sat her down for not playing defense. Actually, they sat 4 starters down and got their doors blown off. They're 3-10. So she's struggling at this next level. She's had some really good games. She had a 30-point game, but she's had games where she scored 9, 12, and then they sat her down because she's just not playing defense. And she's run up against a different breed of athlete, more than one on a team. I mean, she's facing all kinds of defenses that are getting there to her, and they're long and they're tall and they're fast, and they're causing her just a lot of problems to get good looks at the basket. So she's gone through that bumpy part of the road, and then you add in the fact that she got snubbed from the U.S. Olympic basketball team, but the explanation was she has no international experience. We're returning 8 veteran players who've been in the Olympics already, and that's why she did not get chosen. And then obviously how she was treated in the game by Chicago and some of the mocking and the hard fouls and the jibber-jabber. And some of the other players in the league, they've forgotten what she's meant to this game. Yeah, they were in the WNBA the last 5 years. They had no bleeping TV viewers. They were not making great money in terms of salaries.
Yeah.
They were catching flights at 12:05 a.m. after games, commercial flight if it doesn't get delayed, or 6 a.m. the next morning to go to the next city. They got big salaries and they got endorsements, and their TV ratings are through the roof, and they're playing before sellouts. That's because of Caitlin Clark. So respect the person and what she's meant to the game, and instead of this junk that just continues to go on and on.
Well, remember at the very beginning, the NBA was subsidizing the WNBA.
Well, they were owned by a bunch of NBA teams.
Yeah. So, but now I think they might be self-sufficient as a league. I mean, if they're selling out these arenas, right?
Their attendance is 94% capacity.
Well, hell, that sounds pretty good.
Yeah, when they're drawing 4,000, they're drawing 19,000, and they're moving games to big NBA arenas now. We don't need to play at a small college because everybody wants to see Caitlin Clark.
That's more than an LIV golf tournament.
Yeah, you think?
But did you see the replay of that? Caitlin was driving, I guess, one of the Connecticut Sun players, and hit. They collided, and then she threw her head back, and then the other opponent was mocking Caitlin Clark for doing the head bob thing.
Yeah, like roller derby.
Yeah, it's exactly.
It's a little bit theater, but a little bit's overwhelming. Did you know that before the game starts, the TV cameras are rolling when they're getting off the bus, and it becomes a fashion show, walking down the tunnel to see what's the latest outfit this star in the WNBA is wearing.
Well, the NFL does that, and NBA does that. We want to see the new, digs that these guys are wearing. I mean, come on. I mean, that's
not
all
like
part of the
Angel Reese and some of the others are wearing.
Well, they're pushing the limit, and they have a little more, let's say, flexibility as a woman that you can get a little more creative. But I like that because you get to see their persona off the field, and I think that adds to the attraction to these athletes.
Respect Caitlin Clark. She's meant a lot more than just being a basketball player to the WNBA. A couple more here, social media.
Okay, let's go here to a Laker call here. And this is from the Wolf of Broadway. He says, it's the same shit like when they hired Frank Vogel. LeBron is going to put the blame on the coach and never on himself because he's not a leader.
Man, there's a lot of dislike of that 39-year-old superstar. I don't quite understand it. Now, does he carry too much force in terms of decisions in the front office? Maybe he does with Pelinka. But at the end of the day, when he's on the floor, that's max effort. That's 105% effort from a 39-year-old guy who gets hurt and plays through injuries, etc. So I'm not as down on LeBron as probably a lot of people in LA are. Where the hell would you be if you didn't have him? What if he suffered an Achilles injury opening night and could not play the rest of the year? What do you think your team would be? Lottery?
So LeBron is always a spectacle. LeBron often doesn't show the best leadership qualities at times, but statistically he's hard to argue with. I mean, the guy puts up the numbers, but there's something wrong with the Lakers. And, we were to say maybe it's leadership, ownership, general management, maybe it's the bench, or maybe it's LeBron. But what I could tell you right now, that's not a championship team.
But where would you be if he were not there?
Well, maybe rebuilding and creating a Showtime #2. You know, maybe the whole thing could be completely different.
So you want him out of there?
Bring back Nick Van Exel.
Jeez. Okay. Hey, listen, we hope you have enjoyed our Thursday podcast. It's brought to you by DIXIELINE Lumber and Home Centers, 9 stores in San Diego to serve you, and by North County Eye Center right now, offering all of our viewers free eye exams. You tell them Hacksaw sent you. We'll be back in here on Monday. Bonus coverage starts 1 p.m. Pacific. John, man, we covered a lot of stories. We probably upset a lot of people along the way. Take a deep breath. We'll be back to argue about it all on Monday. Have a great sports weekend.
I'm looking forward to O Canada tonight in Edmonton.
Thanks for being with us on Hacksaw's Headlines.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.